Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this special edition of Sounding Off Podcast. I am your host, Eddie Gonzalez from Moscow, aka Moscow Photographer, and my special guest today, Stanislav Krapivnik from the Eyes of Truth podcast, coming to us live from, where are you, my friend? Somebody went down to Georgia.
Yeah, but it ain't anywhere near Alabama.
As they say, the devil is in the details.
The devil went down to Georgia.
We've got some details, my friend. So for our audience who might be watching for the very first time and who may not know who Mr. Stanislav Krapivnik is, can you tell our audience a little bit about you?
Yeah, former U.S. military officer. Spent 11 years in the U.S. Army. Russian by nationality, by birth, place. Returned to Russia 2010. Professional in oil and gas and oil and gas services, procurement, logistics, etc. And military political expert. And business has been brisk for the last couple of years.
Yeah, business has been good, as we say.
Yeah.
Yes, it has. And so you are currently in Tbilisi on unrelated business, but at the same time, there is an election, parliamentary election, I believe, in Georgia that has been making the news in the West. But remind me, where is Georgia? Because this is not the Georgia with the, what do they call it? Georgia University. What, I can't remember what their mascot is.
Yeah.
But this isn't the Georgia of the United States.
Believe it or not, Tbilisi is not a suburb of Atlanta.
No, this is the Georgia that's 6,000 miles away on the other side of the earth. But however, there's been a lot of public comment from the Biden administration and their State Department with regard to an election that's happening in Tbilisi. So bring us up to speed. What's going on over there?
Yeah, so Tbilisi, Georgia is in the South Caucasus, Central South Caucasus, which is just in the borders, the northern, its northern borders up against Russia, the northern Caucasus mountain ranges. So let's start a little bit before these elections. It's a U.S. hard-on. They get a big woody trying to get Georgia to start a war with Russia. Saakashvili did it in 2008, got his teeth kicked in pretty quickly, 6-day war, and then relations collapsed. But then Saakashvili got kicked out. The Georgian Dream Party came in 2012 and steadily been improving relations. There are now no visa requirements and no limits on how long Russians can stay in Georgia or Georgians can stay in Russia. And there's still no official diplomatic recognition, but that's being taken care of. So they're working toward that anyways, and there's direct talks between the government. Well, when the special military operation kicked off, of course, the U.S. and their fascist dictator Muppet Zelensky, they all wanted Georgia to open up a new front. And just to give you a little background, before all of this actually even started, before the special military operation started, that fat lying turd, otherwise known as Pompeo, who, by the way, apparently may be worming his way into Trump's second administration, to show you nothing ever changes.
Yeah, because I've actually heard Trump say some nice things about Pompeo in the last week or so. Yeah.
Napolito, Judge Napolito, he said it very well. The curse of American elections, no matter who you vote for, you get McCain. So Pompeo on his farewell tour, he came to Georgia and talked to then Prime Minister Irakli Gubarashvili. He proposed that this was before the war with the special military operation kicked off, about half a year before. that Georgia starts a war with Russia. And Gubarashvili said, why the hell would we do that? They'll crush us in 4 days. Yes, but then you could start a partisan guerrilla war, and that can last for years. Like, why would we want to do that? Get a bunch of our people killed, get our country destroyed for what? Well, for what is for Washington to make more money off of it. Number one, there you go, more influence, more money. And however many people, especially those nasty, ugly, dirty foreigners, they can throw into the pit, the bottomless pit, that's all the better. It's all Washington gives a damn about. Because, every corpse is just more money in the pocket, one way or the other. So, okay, it didn't work with Georgia. They started with Ukraine. But they wanted Georgia to restart, to do exactly that. The Georgians, the Georgian Dream Party said no, and they said no to sanctions. And Georgia, laying directly between Russia, Turkey, and Iran, well, there's Armenia, and of course, there too, benefited very, very heavily from trade. Georgia, Moldova went into doing sanction against Russia. Moldova's economy has suffered inflation that's over 40%. It has zero growth. It's actually shrinking economy. People are fleeing. Countries destroyed. Georgia's had shrinking inflation, and their economy in the 2 years has grown about 18%. So, and they're not in a war. Georgia has a population of 3.5 million. So, if they took losses like Ukraine of almost 1 million killed and another 1 million wounded, there wouldn't be a Georgia left.
No, there wouldn't be. It would just be totally decimated.
Right. And Russia has no interest in conquering Georgia, and Russia has no for Russia. It's a win-win if Georgia's neutral. If Georgia's friendly or more, that's just a win-win-win-win. So then Russia's been doing whatever it can in that direction too. So they had the parliamentary elections. Now there's been 2 attempted Maidans in Georgia in the last year. Color revolutions. Last one was in May. Where Liberal International poured its people in. You got Islam International that throws a Jihad or Jihad International around. You got Liberal International that throws their little street fighters all over the place, and they shite all over the main street. They weren't able to storm and get into the Parliament building. They tried, and that was over Foreign Agents Act, which is a copy of the U.S. Act that's been in effect since 1938, and it is a very, very limited light version of compared to what the U.S. has, right? But the U.S. was against them having, because as the U.S. And when they brought up this double standard hypocrisy, they were told, well, in the U.S. it's to protect people, but for you it's corruption. Yeah, that's yes. American politicians are such soulless little twats. They can actually say that with a straight face. I mean, their master is the master of lies. So they're very good at what their master can do. They learn quickly. So anyways, the Georgian Dream Party won 54% of the vote. There were about 4 opposition. There were 4 opposition blocks. The only thing they have in common is they hate the Georgian Dream, and they're all Russophobes. On top of that, other than that, they hate each other just as much. They got the majority of the rest of the vote between those 4. And of course, as predictable, they refused to recognize the elections. So you've got the French resident, the Georgian president, Salome Zerubashvili.
Yes.
And why I say that, this is try imagining this in America. Zerubashvili is not Georgian born. I think her grandparents were Georgian born. They left during the Russian Civil War back in the early 1920s to France. So she was born in France, grew up in France, is a retiree of the French Foreign Service, because they only have to work about 20 years to get retired, like most government types. They get a fast retirement with a thick paycheck. So her last position was ambassador to Georgia from France. Saakashvili, the American Muppet, who's in prison in Georgia now for corruption and a lot of other things and having a lot of people killed, but that's aside. He gave her citizenship. And then one way or the other, she wound up as president. Now, Georgia is a parliamentary republic. It is now. So the president is more just like a figurehead, but she does have one really, really powerful role. She pardons people. So all these people that are pushing to overthrow the government arrests, and she turns around and pardons them. And as you can understand, the ruling party and everybody get really sick and tired of that. So she, back when they were trying to do a Maidan over the Foreign Agents Act, she actually went out and told her former boss, Macron, who, by the way, she draws her pension check from, she called on Macron to come to Georgia and help her get rid of these insane people in power. So you got the president of Georgia calling on a foreign leader to come and overthrow the government of Georgia, the elected government of Georgia, by the way. So, you know, I think there are words to describe that kind of action, and they're not pretty. So this woman barely speaks Georgian. She's an absolute European puppet. So, of course, you know, and she's ultra-liberal. Of course, she didn't accept the elections because her side lost big. So then she comes out there. So that was the 26th, and it was peaceful. There were some fights and agitation at a couple polling stations. A good friend of mine who's in the government, his polling station that he was in charge of, in fact, had those fights, had those agitators show up. Most everybody else was peaceful. He got the brunt of it. So anyway, 2 incidents in just the first half of the day. But overall, you know, it was pretty straight up. They lost. So she calls on all the opposition states on the 27th that we're not going to accept this, that this was a special operation of Russia, that Russia owned these elections and forced to win. You know, if there wasn't a Russia, someone would have to invent one.
Absolutely.
Because all your failings and miserable fuck-ups in life, you can blame on Russia.
Yeah, you got to have an enemy.
Like
if you're the West, you have to have an enemy. It's
like the Jews in 37, you know. You know, what's wrong with the world today? It's all the Jews. So we've changed places. The difference is we've got a big army and a big government, so they can't quite, you know, throw us into concentration camps and gas us. I'm sure they would if they could. So anyways, they had she called out for everyone to come out on the streets yesterday, and we were there. We were filming. Also, there was an RT crew that I'm friends with who was there. I was on RT yesterday, live, as a matter of fact, as a correspondent. And then we were filming. I put that out on my website, and I've sent you some of those videos. Most of them are in Russian for the Russian auditorium, but I did some in English too. So they were planning on having 30,000 people out there. And just to understand, Rustaveli is the main street, the main drag through the center of the city, old city. They got the big parliament building is on Rustaveli. So they got a small square in front of it. It's not a big area. They got a small square in front of it. And then across from it is the Biltmore Hotel, which is about 5 stories, 6 stories tall, huge building. So there's not a huge amount of place for the people. So if there were 30,000 people, they'd have been stretching way down the street either way. It's a 4-lane road, but I mean, still, it's you know, 30,000 people is 30,000 people. If there were 30,000 people. So by 7 o'clock, when it all was supposed to start off with, and they were playing jazz music, she had not a bad choice of music, and people are slowly starting to filter in. The road was still open till about 7:30 when they finally closed. The police finally closed the road because they got enough people that they were actually standing in the road. Yeah, as far as the crowds, you know, they were claiming 30,000. You know, from where we were standing on the side of the parliament, it looks like maybe 7,000, something like that. But I got photos from the drones, and it's not even close to that. The center's packed, but then they got people spread out on the road. So if you're looking from the side, you really can't, from 20 meters, you can't tell how much distance there is between rows of people, right? But from the air, you can tell, there were a lot of areas they could have reached their hand out and not touched another person. So it was really sparse. It just had them really spread out. That's one thing. Two, I told my friend, my Georgian friend, who's in the government, the biggest mistake that there's lots of police, but the biggest mistake the Georgian government did is they should have put checkpoints coming up to the streets and checked everybody's passports. If they're Georgian police, you got a right to protest. If you're not Georgian, go to hell away. Because about 20% of the people there were not Georgians. So get this. So again, it's that liberal international that throws people around from country to country. You're a guest of a country. You don't get to go demonstrate against that country's government. You have no right to do that. And there were just all of the European liberal scum, American liberal scum, Canadian liberal scum, the whole works. I lost sound. Eddie.
I apologize. I forgot to unmute.
Yeah, no problem.
But I was going to ask you, what was the mood on the streets? Were there any protests? Were there any obvious agitators, people looking like to start a fight or to push people emotionally and things like that? What was going on there? What did you say?
Before I go into what they actually said, the message they actually said, but as far as the mood, I've seen rowdier jazz concerts. I mean, really, it was pretty damn tame. It started around 7-ish. 7:30 is actually when the president showed up. Not that she stayed for very long. About 9:30, they played the EU national anthem. Not the EU as a nation, but They started with the Georgian, then they played the EU national anthem. It was sitting there like, shit, I guess it's the end of it. And by 9:30, 10 o'clock, everybody was leaving and they were going on their way. So it was, I had some Russian news media going, so what? They didn't even storm a single store or anything? Because, in May, it got pretty rowdy with riot police and water cannons, etc. Like, I don't think anybody broke a fingernail. I mean, it was, like I said, I've seen rowdier jazz concerts.
Not much energy then.
No, not nearly that much energy. More from the speakers, not that much from the crowd. And about, like I said, about 15-20% of the people. So there's probably maybe 7,000 people max. Probably somewhere closer to 5. I'll send you the photo later on from the drones, from the police drones.
Before we go, just to let people know, I am going to link down in the description once this live is over to Stan's Telegram channel, my Telegram channel as well, so you can see some of those videos and those photos that Stan is going to upload there shortly. Go ahead.
Stas. That's the only
Stas, I'm sorry, I'm Stas. I
hate Stan. No problem. We'll hold it against you. So the message. Okay, so Zarubashvili arrives, and her car pulled up about 2 meters from me. She arrives, she gets out, goes out there half an hour late. Her message being, we are the path to Europe, we are the path to the future, blah, 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 blah. Standing in our path is Ivanishvili, who's the biggest backer of the Georgian Dream Party, a billionaire businessman, and the Russian Special Services. Right. So I guess, if you listen to them, there must have been like 2-3 divisions of FSB that showed up in Georgia, was standing at every polling station and pushing people at gunpoint to vote. I mean, you'd think that from listening to these people. Do they have evidence? She flat out said no. But I feel that it was stolen because, we live in a modern Western version of truth. It's all about your feelings. You don't need to have proof. It's how you feel.
I'm gonna bring this up here. This is from Olga Bazova on her X, and she said, foreign agent masquerading as a president of Georgia admits that they have no evidence of fraudulent elections, alludes to hybrid warfare, and refers to the U.S. not having any either, and says that all that matters is what they feel happened. So
Right.
it's all BS, it's all made up, and it is all liberal malarkey, Western liberal malarkey.
Yep. It's the modern democracy. We will vote until we get the right agenda, the right results. Which, by the way, this is how the European Constitution was pushed through in Ireland. They voted like 4 or 5 times until they got 0.5% of what they needed. And in between each one, they're trying to buy each group. So this is the same concept. We'll vote until we get the proper results.
Right.
And screw the will of the people, because, who really cares about the will of the people? So anyway, she gets out there. She's bragging. I've had 18 interviews today. I've spoken to 6 different presidents of different European countries. The world is with us. And when I mean the world is with us, it's America and its vassals are with another American vassal, or English American vassal is what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
We're a whore of the empire, and the empire backs us. That's what she's trying to say. The rest of the world, not so much so. As a matter of fact, Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary, flew in yesterday during those demonstrations, met with Kabahadze, who's the Prime Minister, and had a good dinner with him and congratulated him on his victory, his party's victory.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's the whole world. I'm pretty sure if Robert Fico could travel, he's still recovering from those bullet wounds. He took 5 bullets for being a traditional conservative. At least we forget that. He probably would have traveled with Orban, but he'll still be recovering for quite a while from that near-death experience at the hands of another liberal, Western stooge, and who had a Ukrainian wife who fled right after the assassination attempt. It's just so all convenient. So anyway, so she said made her little spill, and then ran into her car and got out, because it's 4 degrees Celsius outside. It's nasty, chilly, and she's good. She's just too busy to spend any more time with the little people. She's got some nice wine to drink somewhere, or something else.
Yeah, she
maybe
showed up, gave her talking points, gave her speech, and then that was it. I'm out of here.
Yeah, that was it. I'm sure she probably had to rearrange her sock drawer or something like that. something more important.
So Stas,
then the different heads of.
Go ahead. Go ahead with your story.
Yeah. So then the different heads of the political parties in the opposition parties came out. They said, we're gonna bring in world experts to check through this. We're gonna comb through any violations. Basically, the whole gist of it. First of all, they did throw the gloves down, because they said they were all going to give up their mandates. So in other words, all the opposition parliamentarians are going to quit their posts and protest, the ones that they won or retained, are going to quit their posts and protests, and are going to protest until they get a new election. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting enough, because one, this protest is so short. Normally they go all through into the morning, or maybe into the next day and the next day. This protest was 2.5 hours, and they didn't say when the next protest is going to be. They put up a laser sign on top that said, "We'll be back." To be continued. When the hell, we don't know. But it was basically like a pathetic shout out to the West. We're here. Listen to us. Give us some money. It was like a mass Zelensky.
We need some support.
Gimme. Yeah.
Die. What is the word on the street from ordinary Georgians about all this?
Well, ordinary Georgians that voted for the Georgian Dream, which is more than half the population, they just want peace. They may not love Russia, they may not like Russia, but I mean, they make a lot of money off Russia, because Russian tourists are #1. So the Ukrainian flags from 2002 have almost all disappeared, because the big difference to anybody is Russians come over and are respectful, and they spend money. Ukrainians come over and act like pigs. Oh, and demand you also feed them. You know, it kind of doesn't take a genius to figure out who's better for you. So most of them, they want peace. I mean, what do most people want? They want peace. They want prosperity.
Absolutely.
That's what they want.
Absolutely.
But the Georgian Green guy, I mean, the opposition guys want war. But most of these people on the streets are too stupid to figure out if there was a war with Russia, guess who's going to be fighting it? Not the guys egging you on. It's you. You're the ones that are going to be dying out there. They're too stupid to figure that out when you start talking to them. Plus, you know, honestly, about 15, 20% were foreigners who obviously ain't going to stick around, including Ukrainians sitting there getting paid for being out there, rent a crowd. And a large chunk of them, maybe a third, were teenagers who were having a cool time at a protest. Woo! You know, they're trying to very actively trying to screw their future. They're not understanding. They're at a clueless age, you know, at that point. And we've seen that before. Navalny, when he had his protests in Russia, he would pull in the 10, 12, 13-year-olds, and he'd put them up front.
He catered to children, right?
Yeah, he'd put them up front trying to egg the police on some kind of confrontation so one of the kids would get hit. And then they can scream, oh, they're beating the kids. I mean, this is the level of the liberal movement, mass movement, world movement. They'll sacrifice anybody and anything to get their ends.
That's true. Absolutely. Absolutely. So moving forward, what's on tap for today? Are there any protest schedules for today, or
no, all peace and quiet. People going about their duties. I mean, every talking head is obviously talking about it. That it's in Georgia, in Russia, in Europe, everywhere. The U.S. has already issued even more threats. I mean, they've already sanctioned everybody they could sanction, which is kind of funny. You know, hey, we're really pissed off. You don't want to be our friends. And we want you to be our friends and do what we tell you. So we're going to smack you upside the head for it. And we're going to keep smacking you until you decide being our friend. Yeah, the beatings will continue till morale improves. That's the American and European, American-European diplomacy in a nutshell. We will beat you until you submit. And I don't know why you keep hating us.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're gonna like you more tomorrow, you know.
Oh yeah, they're incapable of coming up with any kind of negotiated anything. The West, I mean, it's our way or we'll just butcher you and have a civil war. You know, give us power, we'll give you a civil war.
How much to say the Dream Party and those who support the Dream Party, how far are they willing to go to fight against these Western influences that are not beneficial to them or their future? How far are they willing to put it on the line, in other words?
We'll have to live and see, because in the Georgia Constitution is written on a constitutional level. You think it wouldn't be in a constitutional, not a constitutional document, but in the Georgia Constitution it's actually written that Georgia will join the EU and NATO. So like it or not, they kind of still have to toe to that. How far this is going, you know, I mean, they don't want the sodomy. They don't want, they pretty much understand what's going on in Europe. For some of those politicians, it's better, they because of the way the Constitution is written, they can't say no to Europe per se. But if Europe says no to them, that's perfectly fine. You know, oh well. So I think they're, you know, they've put themselves, or they've been put in a corner. So they've got the option of turning toward their neighbors who aren't part of the liberal worldview, or submitting and being slaves to the West. I mean, it really is pretty much like that. And sacrificing everything in their own people and their own country to destruction. And they pretty much understand it. On top of that, the very powerful thing is the police and the military. Most of those guys are Orthodox Christians and actually believing Orthodox Christians, You know, I mentioned I come twice a year for holidays, but actual Orthodox Christians. So they have no desire to be part of the Sodom and Gomorrah in the West. Absolutely none. So they're willing to stand and fight, not to be part of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Good to hear. I have yet to travel to Georgia, but I'd like to, and one day I will, hopefully. And
beautiful place, by the way. You can bring in rubles and exchange them at a pretty decent rate, you know, the market rate basically. So you don't have to just bring in dollars or euro. You can bring in rubles. Now, Russian credit cards don't work here, but you can pay in cash for most anything. Just bring in, and there's dozens of money exchangers, banks exchange. So yeah, it's pretty easy to travel down here. Americans also don't need visas to come in to Georgia, so yeah, it's a good place. By the way, if you want to move your money, you know, further away from the grasp of Uncle Sam or Uncle Brussels, Uncle van der Leyen or Aunt van der Leyen, I'm not sure, but how many genders is she? Georgia's a pretty damn good place to invest. So, and from here, you can also move your money up to Russia if you want to invest or move. So it's a good in between. And though southwestern Georgia is subtropical, the coastal regions are fully subtropical. So there's lots to see. I mean, the country is like 4,000 years old. So there's always something to see.
Ancient history there. Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a comment here from Luis Martinez who says, thank you and your friends for getting the news out, because it's the only way I can know what's going on in my country, from honesty, people from thousands of miles across the pond. That's what we're here for, Luis, to let you guys know from an alternative point of view, the truth and what's going on here. So one more time, guys, we're going to wrap this up. We're here in about 32 minutes, and I know my camera's going to die any minute now. But I'll have information down below to Stan's channel on Telegram. Also, Stas, why the heck do I do that?
It's only 4 letters, man.
Stas. Yes. So I'll have all his details to his YouTube channel and to his Telegram. And what is the name of your YouTube channel and your podcast?
Okay, the YouTube channel is Mr. Slavic Man, all in one word. The Telegram channels, the Russian language Telegram channel, Stas Today Обратно. The English one, Stas was there.
Absolutely. We'll
have. As far as I know, I don't quite have enough people there for anybody to make a pirate site off of mine. So.
No. But you know, yeah. Everybody join Stas's. I said it right. Telegram and his YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed to mine, go ahead and do that while you're there as well. Be sure to thumbs up and share this video. And Stas, thank you so much for joining. And if there's any other breaking news from Tbilisi, give me a shout out and we'll go live again.
Well, I'm still here for a few more days and then finally heading home. See the family.
Wonderful. Okay. We are signing off. Пока.